UPA. Look, there is
No.
consistency in
You know the parliamentary committee is not blaming only the NDA. It's saying that all governments from 1993 to 2008 have been illegally allotting coal mines non-transparently, free, without auction, causing a huge loss to the public exchequer.
See, issue is what has been brought to the notice of the public is the way, in a most corrupt fashion, coal was allocated. We all know what happened when Shibu Soren was the coal minister. We all know what happened when his subsequent successor invited everybody to his house to fix up deals for coal allocation. It is the conduct which has raised the issue. Otherwise, see, I'm not getting into the debate of allocation versus auction. That's a separate debate altogether. It was the continuous misconduct of the people at the helm of affairs, including when the Prime Minister himself was the coal minister between 2006 and 2009, that the entire issue came up.
In fact, we were talking about that just before you joined the debate.
The open loot.
We were talking about that, but Colonel Sherawat, what's also interesting is that the parliamentary committees also pointed out that during the inquiry, they got no information, no help from any quarter on the coal produced. One thing, we'll just come back to you. How much is this looking like a conspiracy of silence from all sides concerned?
See, the Interministerial Committee has also found faults in the screening committee's working procedure, and now you have a constitutional functionary making a false statement in the Supreme Court of the country about the CBI's functioning and the report having been seen or not being seen by the law minister. So, you know, what can you do when you have the topmost people, displaying a very poor moral fiber?
Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, well, one escape route for the Congress, the BJP and the United Front leaders can be that, look, this is a policy that you allot coal blocks, you don't auction them. Since 1993, we've all been following the same policy.
Well, the Supreme Court has number of times
Janjar, allow me to elaborate.
But 1 minute, we'll just come to you, Sudhanshu, just quickly, Dr.
The Supreme Court has made it very clear that policy is a prerogative of the government, but it cannot be arbitrary. It cannot be against public interest. When you give valuable natural resource at a throwaway price, when you can auction it and get a lot of resources for the government, it is obviously against the public interest. That's why the licenses were cancelled on my petition when I moved that the 2G licenses should be cancelled. Now, therefore, policy cannot be an argument. Now, whether it was from 1993 or the British times, that's not important. Today, we have to start the process of accountability. Whoever is involved, you do the investigation. But what we are finding is that they are blocking the investigation itself. They want a whitewash done on the report.
Unfortunately, as we mentioned at the beginning of the program, we invited several Congress leaders to be part of this debate, but all of them declined to be part of the debate on this particular topic. But Sudhanshu, you wanted to say something. Let me just point out, you were saying earlier that you don't want to get into the issue of how coal should be allocated, but Dr. Swamy just mentioned the Supreme Court has said, fine, you can decide. You want to allot coal, you want to auction it, that's your problem. But the fact is, the Parliamentary Committee on Coal says that, like the Congress, the BJP also was doing it secretly, non-transparently. You didn't put out ads. You didn't give out public information.
Arbitrary.
It was arbitrary. How can you defend that?
Janjar, let me explain this, that the first time this issue was raised was through a note by Secretary Cole. This note was addressed to the Prime Minister himself. What the Secretary Cole had stressed was that prevailing system of selection by a screening committee lacked transparency and objectivity, and different kind of pulls and pressures experienced by the screening committee during the decision-making process. This process was supported, the objection came first time from the Coal Secretary to the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister himself was the one who rejected the suggestion by the Coal Secretary. That is when the entire process started. There is a system, and then there is a review of the system. The intent of a government gets explicitly clear when the objections are raised and how it deals with the objections. You see, if after observing that a system may be working, may not be working, when somebody brings it to the notice and says, look, here is the system which lacks transparency, and if the present Prime Minister himself says, no, what you are saying is not right, we will continue with this, and then subsequent to the rejection by the Prime Minister, then the conduct of the ministers of coal successively is that they are amassing huge wealth through non-transparent allocations. That is when the entire issue comes. Now to bring it to 1993 when the policy was instituted, you know, it is perverse.
But the point of where...
The problem started
one second.
when it was pointed out, and then you persisted with it.
To say something to you over here.
No, see, here Sudhanshu Mittal has raised an important point. There is no doubt that it was brought to the notice of Prime Minister, and therefore, at the very minimum, Parliament should ask the Prime Minister to make a clarification that these are the things that have come. What did you know? In the case of 2G, he was forced to make a clarification, and he said, I had no authority in deciding the price. It was Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Raja who had to decide. He said that in February 2012, you see, which made it may change the whole course of the investigation.
You believe it's time for the PM to come clean on this coal scam now?
I would think whether it is clean or unclean, he must make a statement and be subject to questioning in Parliament.
All right. Mr. D. Raja, the Parliamentary Committee has now suggested all coal mines, you know, where production has still not started, should be cancelled. How feasible is that?
How feasible means what? It should be done. If you want to protect the interests of the nation, if you want to save the resources in the interest of the people, you will have to cancel. Otherwise, what is the fun in doing all these arguments and debates? The Parliament Committee has given a report how government is going to act on the basis of the recommendations, findings made by the Parliamentary Standing Committee. After all, but in our system, whatever the Parliamentary Standing Committee recommends, that is recommendatory. It is for the government to accept or reject or partially accept or partially reject. It is how our system works. What I am
but will the left front be pushing for the cancellation of coal blocks allocations where the coal production still hasn't started?
There must be transparency in what we do.
No, well, the left front...
Chanchar, I want to say something.
One second. I was asking Mr. Raja, but will the left front be supporting the Standing Committee's idea of cancelling all coal blocks allocations where the production still hasn't started?
As Mr. Subramanian Swamy has said, the Supreme Court itself cancelled licenses given to many telecom companies. If that is possible in telecom case, why not it is not possible for coal allocation?
All right, so the left is supporting that idea. What about the BJP? What about the BJP, Sudhanshu Mittal?
You see, the coal allocation was primarily for the purpose of the captive coal plants. The idea was that these coal plants will have the coal fields, the electricity plants will have coal fields, and this fuel will be used to produce cheap energy. What have they done? Most of them have sold coal in the open market, making huge profits. B, they have sold electricity in open market, making huge profit. I have the case of Jindal's, where it costed them 0.45 paisa a unit and sold in open market at 5 rupees a unit. So when all these manipulations were seen, then there was a requirement that, look, such valuable natural resources cannot be given for the purpose of profiteering under the garb of subsidy or cheap supply of electricity to common man. So once this manipulation was exposed, now look at the coal mines which have not been operated.
So
look, they were given on the assumption or on the
Parliamentary Committee says that those coal mines which were allocated where the production still hasn't started, they should be cancelled. The left, you heard Mr. Raja supporting that idea. Where do you stand on this?
I think, I do not know about the party, but as an individual I can say that somebody who was allocated a coal mine or an entity on the basis of a requirement for such an allocation in public interest. They have not demonstrated any public interest by not even starting the extraction of coal.
Right.
So where is the public interest?
Right.
Now if there is no public interest, there is no reason why such expensive coal should be given for at pittance to these people for them to make huge profits at a subsequent
Supreme Court cancelled 2G licenses. What is the possibility they could step in and cancel some of these coal block allocations?
No, Supreme Court not only cancelled the licenses, but even where the licenses are being put to use. I don't understand why with those.
Could that happen over here?
Why you should not do it also for the those which are already started producing.
But if
coal.
the government doesn't do it, what is the possibility the Supreme Court might do it?
Supreme Court will definitely do it.
Definitely do it. All right. Okay. In which case, we can now move on to the second part of this coal scam debate, which is incredible. You have a situation right now where, remember, the CBI is investigating the UPA government for being part of the coal scam, and you have a situation where the CBI is accused of sharing its investigation report with the government, and the government allegedly making or forcing changes to that report. In other words, you have the accused and the investigator allegedly complicit in the coal scam over here. The UPA government accused of trying to doctor the CBI report. Let's tell you what is the latest on this. Remember, the Supreme Court has asked the CBI to clarify in an affidavit by Friday this week whether it shared the coal report with the government or not. Here's the latest on this, and then we'll debate this as well.
The knives are out for the Prime Minister and the UPA government.
The Prime Minister should resign forthwith and the Law Minister should be sacked immediately.
The Prime Minister is guilty of dereliction of duty on a number of accounts. He has not been doing his job. He has failed to keep his commitment to the country.
The UPA government neck deep in trouble over Law Minister allegedly trying to influence the CBI's report on Coalgate. The CBI stating that Ashwini Kumar reviewed its report and suggested a list of alterations. Suggestions that it did not consider. The government denies this.
As far as the Prime Minister is concerned, he made it very clear the government is willing to any issue that is being raised by the opposition parties in the House. But unfortunately, BJP believes in disruptive politics.
The CBI told the Supreme Court last month the government did not check the finances of the companies that got the cheap coal licenses. While it is clear from the CBI's statements that the Law Minister did try to influence its report, what remains to be answered is whether the government managed to influence the report.
सारा कोयले का आवंटन जो हुआ वो प्रधानमंत्री के हस्ताक्षर से हुआ क्योंकि वही कोयला मंत्री थे और इसलिए इनका इस्तीफा होना चाहिए.
The question is, did Ashwini Kumar get the key points deleted? And is government trying to shield Prime Minister by putting the blame on junior ministers as it has done earlier also with 2G scam when it put all the blame on A. Raja? This is Vijayalakshmi with video journalist Gopal for NewsX from New Delhi.
All right, Colonel Sherawat from the Aam Aadmi Party. Last month, the Additional Solicitor General of India told the Supreme Court the CBI's coal scam report has not been shown or vetted by the government, but it looks like it was shown to the Law Minister Ashwini Kumar and the Prime Minister's office. Now, the CBI is required to clarify on this by Friday. If it confirms that the report was shared with the government, should the Law Minister resign?
Certainly, he has done something which is totally unethical, and this has been the modus operandi of the government. You know that the CBI has been subverted, and it is not a exception that somebody like Nikhil Kumar has been joint director of CBI for 8 years, because people who've been towing the lines of the government, who've been doing all the dirty work, have been hanging around in such organizations. And CBI is the oxygen on which the government has been living. And this case is exactly why our party has been saying that the CBI must not remain under the control of government. It must be an autonomous body, because
But you know, Dr. Swamy, the charge over here is that the government, of course, got the CBI to show it the report, tried to doctor it as well. But the people implicated are not just the Law Minister, but the Prime Minister's office as well.
Of course, it has to be, because I've been Law Minister. You cannot summon the CBI. The Law Minister cannot summon the CBI. It's another department, and that too is under the Prime Minister. So without the Prime Minister's clearance or the Prime Minister's office clearance, The CBI cannot go to see the law minister.
So if the CBI tells the Supreme Court on Friday that it did share its investigative report on the coal scam with the law minister and the PMO, okay, what kind of heads could roll or should roll or will roll?
Well, I think first of all the Parliament must get and the Supreme Court must get an affidavit from the law minister. Why did he summon? And two, from the Prime Minister also, why did he summon? Like in the 2G case, they made the Prime Minister's office file an affidavit in my matter.
Right. Sudhanshu Mittal from the BJP, your party has been saying the Prime Minister must resign over this, the Law Minister must be sacked, but Sonia Gandhi retorted today by saying, you know, let them ask. You guys can keep asking. You know, what do you say to that? You've been asking for the Prime Minister's resignation many times the last few years.
They should ask for Sonia Gandhi's resignation.
Sudhanshu, are you able to hear me?
No, doesn't look like it.
Sudhanshu, are you able to hear me? All right, okay, we'll just try and fix that. Looks like there's some problem over there with the line to Sudhanshu Mittal. But Mr. D. Raja, what is the case for, as the BJP wants, the Prime Minister and the Law Minister should to resign over this matter? Okay, looks like we have a problem with the line of Mr. Raja as well. We'll try and fix that over here. But let me just go back to Mr. Shirag, Colonel Shirag.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Hello?
Okay, both of you are back. Okay, both of you are back, Mr. Raja and Sudhanshu. Sudhanshu, first of all to you. The BJP wants the PM and the Law Minister to resign. Sonia Gandhi says they will not, or at least the Prime Minister will not. What do you say to that?
The conduct of Congress, including its chairperson, has been completely deplorable. Every time when there has been an expose on corruption, they have been out to defend so shamelessly that the nation has lost all hopes of ever the truth coming out, knowing how well the Congress and its government is going to manipulate the truth. Let us take this case itself. In this case, when the CBI tells Supreme Court that they have not shared, the Supreme Court passed instructions to the Director CBI to file an affidavit saying, please go on record to say whether you have shared this report with the political executive or not. What was the purpose? Look, the CBI has been taken away from the ambit of the government on issues of corruption, primarily so as to insulate any investigation which is going on into corruption from governmental interference.
All right, okay.
Here is the case. Now, look at the look at this conduct in conjuncture with what they have been doing in Parliament on JPC. In JPC, they say we will not let Raja, who is the prime accused, speak. Whereas in the all earlier JPCs, anybody who was charged with misconduct was asked to appear before the JPC and under oath depose what was supposed to be the truth. But not in the case of Raja.
Sudhanshu,
secondly,
I'm so sorry.
Prime Minister
We're running out of
said,
time.
I am willing to go to the PAC.
Yeah, okay. We're running out of time on this one. Final question on this coal scam debate to Mr. D. Raja. If the CBI says to the Supreme Court on Friday, it did show and share its report on the coal scam with the government, how much will it make the continuation of the Law Minister Ashwini Kumar untenable, Mr. D. Raja?
I think Mr. Ashwini Kumar's position has already become untenable. Prime Minister, in fact, has lost his moral authority, moral right, ethical command at government level. We are in a deep crisis. If at all the government continues to be in office, it is by default, I understand. Otherwise, the entire government should go. But it continues to be in office by default. There are other two players in the whole development we should understand. SP, BSP, they are supporting the government from outside. And unless they decide to withdraw their support, the government will continue in office by default. So it is for the people how they come on the streets, how they are going to fight against the anti-people policies of the government, the policies which led to huge loss for the country, the policies which really went against the interests of the people and the country. we'll have to wait for the future.
All right. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do, Mr. Raja. Let's take a very short break. It'll just be a half-a-minute break. When we come back, our guests will remain with us. We'll also be joined by Professor Shrikant Kondapalli, who's a China expert. We'll talk about our second debate tonight, which will be on China. Last week, China sent a platoon of 50 soldiers 10 kilometers inside Ladakh in Jammu and Kashmir. They're still sitting over there. Is China doing a Kargil on India? And why is the government floundering for a response? We'll be back in half a minute with our second NewsX debate tonight.
तंदुरुस्त होगा आपका भी पूरा परिवार जब खाना होगा जैतून तारा कुकिंग ऑयल से तैयार। जैतून ऑयल करे डायबिटीज, कैंसर, एसिडिटी और हार्ट अटैक जैसी बीमारियों से रक्षा।
खाइए जैतून तारा, क्योंकि मिलेगी ना जिंदगी दोबारा।
देश का सबसे तेजी से बढ़ने वाला न्यूज चैनल अब आपके मनचाहे DTH प्लेटफॉर्म पर। टाटा स्काई चैनल नंबर 470, डिश टीवी चैनल नंबर 566, DD डायरेक्ट चैनल नंबर 54 और सभी लीडिंग मल्टी सिस्टम ऑपरेटर्स पर भी उपलब्ध।
इंडिया न्यूज, देश की धड़कन।
Welcome back to the NewsX debate. I'm Jujhar Singh. On the 15th of April, China sent a platoon of 50 soldiers 10 kilometers deep into Indian territory in Ladakh. They set up a camp over there. They had the aerial support of 2 helicopters while they were doing that. They're still over there. Is China doing a Kargil on India? And why is the government floundering for a response?
China intrudes into Indian territory once again. Indian Army moves reinforcements to contain Chinese intrusion in Ladakh in the biggest military face-off since 1986. Army Chief Bikram Singh rushes to Jammu and Kashmir.
A face-to-face situation between the border guards of the two countries. Now this is how India's Ministry of External Affairs has described the situation arising out of the Chinese incursion into Indian territory since the 15th of April. Now this is a direct acknowledgement of the tense face-off between Indian and Chinese troops in the Debsang Valley in the Daulat Beg Oldi area of eastern Ladakh.
Shaken by the brazen intrusion, Jammu and Kashmir government writes to the centre.
Tensions are escalating along line of actual control in Ladakh area of Jammu and Kashmir. This as the Indian and Chinese military is involved in a major face-off following intrusions by the Chinese troops into the Indian territory. The incident is of Debsang Valley of Ladakh, wherein the Chinese troops have made incursions as much as 10 kilometers into the Indian territory.
India tries to downplay the threat, also sounds a stern warning.
The India-China border areas continue to remain peaceful. We believe that this ongoing incident can be handled on the basis of agreements between the two countries and through mechanisms established under those agreements to resolve such situations peacefully.
Opposition wants the government to take an aggressive stand and register a protest with Beijing. Samajwadi chief and former defence minister Mulayam Singh Yadav says the government isn't serious about tackling the Chinese intrusion. BJP's Yashwant Sinha accuses the UPA government of being too weak to hit back. And Murli Manohar Joshi demands Prime Minister's resignation.
The basic problem is that we have a weak government in Delhi, and when you have a weak government, from the rapists on the Delhi streets to the Chinese and the Maldivians and the Sri Lankans, everyone takes you for a ride.
Indian and the Chinese commanders on the line of actual control hold a flag meeting to de-escalate the tension. However, China claims it has not done anything wrong, denies trespassing into Indian territory.
सख्त रवैये की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। हमको नहीं लगता है कि सख्त रवैये की जरूरत है। कहीं कोई भ्रम है, बातचीत करके उसका समाधान होना चाहिए। अगर बातचीत से समाधान नहीं होता है, उसके बाद सख्त कदम उठाने की बात होती है।
The big question is whether this latest trouble with China in the Ladakh region can be resolved peacefully. Bureau Report, NewsX.
All right, so China allegedly sends in a platoon, meaning about 50 troops of theirs, 10 kilometers inside Indian territory, and they're still there 1 week later, and the government is saying that, you know, this ongoing incident, that existing mechanisms will be used to sort it out. We have thus Dr. Subramanian Swamy, President of the Janata Party, Sudhanshu Mittal, leader of the BJP, D. Raja, National Secretary of the CPI, Colonel Devinder Sherawat, defense expert, and Professor Shrikant Kondapalli, China expert at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Again, we'd invited Congress representatives on this panel, but they declined to be part of this debate. Dr. Swamy, you heard the Minister of External Affairs saying that it's a localized event. How much is the government living in a fool's paradise?
Well, first of all, you see, the actual factual position, we cannot know unless the government brings out a white paper.
Yeah.
Unless they declassify some files and tell us exactly what has happened, they need the military intelligence report, etc. We have absolutely no idea what's happened, because this country today, there are lots of think tanks, they brief your press laps it up, puts it out for some time, then the whole thing blows over and then it's forgotten, and then Bonhomme returns. There's no question that if the Chinese have crossed into our territory 10 kilometers, it's a very serious matter.
Yeah.
But I think there somebody has to be taken into confidence that this is what has happened. In the parliament, no, the opposition parties have not been taken into confidence. I really don't know whether this is the usual...
Because the government's never like to talk about the China problem.
Wait, what?
Because the government, when has the government been open about China?
Exactly the question.
Yeah.
62 was because we never knew what was going on. We were talking about bye-bye when they were building the road.
No, even now, Colonel Sherawat, the Ministry of External Affairs is saying this is happening because India and China have different perceptions of the line of actual control. That's the border between India and China and Tibet. The question is, how can the perception of the border be so different that the Chinese walk in 10 kilometers inside our territory?
According to whom?
See, in case of China, border intrusions are a routine affair, and the government of India goes out of its way to play down these incidents. We still haven't found a way to get the LAC, which is spanning over about 4,000 kilometers, right, the perceptions on both sides to demarcate that LAC has not been done so far.
No. Yeah, but I'm pointing out the fact that the MEA is saying that, oh, they're trying to downplay the incident by saying that this is because perceptions of the Indians and Chinese of the LAC are different. But what I'm saying is your perception can be that, okay, you know that the next 500 meters is mine, the other side says this, no, this is mine. But they walked in 10 kilometers into India.
According to whom?
How can the perception be so different?
That you're not able to answer. Who told you 10 kilometers?
Well, they're all saying that.
Who's they all? You tell me one official source which has said 10 kilometers.
The Jammu and Kashmir government is saying they walked deep inside.
Deep inside, it means what? That's what the whole point. You have added yourself.
No.
Listen, I am suggesting that your press is being used, the press is being used as a cat's paw for an international game which wants to create problems between India and China.
By who?
I don't know. There are lots of international forces. It could be Pakistan for all I know.
And if
ISI of Pakistan is very influential with your media, I can tell you that.
But hold on, Dr. Swamy. If the media is reporting that the Chinese have intruded 10 kilometers into Ladakh, why isn't the government denying it? The government is not denying it.
This is an incompetent government. We know that. They don't do anything. They are all the time fudging things. They don't come out this side. They don't come out that side.
The Chinese walking 10 kilometers inside India, if the media is reporting it and the government is not denying it, we have to assume it's true because it's too serious for the government not to deny it.
You have taken it out of thin air, this 10 kilometers, and expect the government to deny it.
Sudhanshu Mittal wants to come in. Go ahead.
Just one sec. In the Chushul sector and the Daulat Beg Oldi sector, the Chinese have done this in the past, and I think the government of India should have come out with a statement on this and clarified the position. You cannot brush things under the carpet and leave it to people's imagination.
Exactly. No, the government of India is fudging. They are not downplaying. You are creating a situation which is not based on any factual report. It's based on what you get briefed by interested elements.
Jhanjhar.
Sudhanshu.
Jhanjhar, two things I want to say. See, Jhanjhar, we need to look at the big picture. What is the big picture? Today, China's defense budget is $117 billion, up from 106.4 than last year. Naturally, as a neighbor of China, this would be of great concern to India. Secondly, we have made efforts in the past to have LAC being declared as LOC, line of actual control be treated as line of control, so that we are able to resolve this entire issue of border with China. Now there has been great resistance to that, and it has not happened.
Yes.
China is not doing it.
Yes.
Given these two facts, we have to look at this thing very holistically and very seriously. I appreciate what Dr. Swami is saying. Certainly, internationally, if you look at things, there are so many games which are played by information, misinformation, disinformation. Here it is the responsibility of the government to come out with facts, the truth. Let me remind you of all.
But look at the Chinese side also. Yeah, but hold on, Sudhanshu.
See, Sundarji
was... hold on. Look at the Chinese side. Mr. D. Raja from the CPI, the Chinese foreign minister has said that their Chinese troops are only patrolling inside Chinese territory. They've never trespassed into the Indian side of the LAC. My question to you is that how can the Chinese lie with such a straight face?
I do not know whether the Chinese side lies or not, unless our defense ministry makes a statement giving the details, giving the facts. Unless our government does it, I will not join the chorus to blow the incident out of proportion and to create strain between
but will you believe the government of India or the government of China? The government of India is acknowledging that
I am talking about government of India, my government, your government.
The government of India, the government of India has acknowledged there is an incident, although they may not be specifying that they are 10 kilometers inside.
Listen, who has said? I have not heard from Prime Minister, I have not heard from the
Ministry of External Affairs has said it.
Salman Khurshid, or I have not heard from Mr. A.K. Antony, Defense Minister. That is why I am saying,
the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs has said it.
Giving the facts, one should not tend to blow up everything and anything, because India and China are trying to improve their relations and in many fields, and I know very well the border talks are at a higher level, and both countries are engaged themselves in a meaningful dialogue to resolve whatever border disputes we have.
Why are we always being soft on China? All sides over here. Dr. Swami,
positively.
No. I'll just come back to you. Professor Kondapalli, in the last 3 years, the Chinese have allegedly intruded on the Indian side of the line of actual control 600 times.
According to whom?
And this is the first time they've stayed there for a week.
According to whom?
And this is how the Chinese behave with us, but we're always being soft with them.
Yeah, but
why?
Whose statistics are you quoting? This 600 I have not seen in any annual report of the government of India.
If I can intervene.
Yeah, but one second, Professor Kondapalli, go ahead.
Janjar, can I say something?
1 minute, Professor Kondapalli first.
If I can intervene. If I can intervene, since the line of actual control has not been clarified, forget about the boundary dispute. The line of actual control has not been clarified over 3,488 kilometers long section between India and China. So since there has been no definition of the line of actual control, most of these transgressions happen because of this no clarity about the line of actual control. So you mentioned about 10 kilometers
the Chinese only
of
doing it, or the Indians also doing this transgression?
It could have happened. To be more objective, I think the patrols, the border patrols, Indian border patrols or Chinese border patrols, they keep moving from one to the other. So these probably are perceived by the other side as transgressions.
Yeah, but Professor Kondapalli, are you suggesting that the Indian army also carries out transgressions in the same manner that the Chinese side does?
Yes.
Yes. You're saying yes.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, and so what you're saying is
Yes.
that you're saying that these are benign. Okay, so you're saying we should read nothing into this. Yeah.
I think there's a little bit more to the incident this time.
What
Battalion
I
of
was
5
trying to
Ladakh
say is-
has been moved and there has been a reaction from the Indian Army.
Yeah.
So you cannot just treat it as a long-range patrol, a routine patrol having come in. There is a certain amount of seriousness in the incident.
Yeah, which is a very good point. I mean, if this is just another, perception problem on the line of actual control, why is the army moving new, troops into that area of which with China?
I will tell you
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
This is the obvious thing to do. If you have got a report that they have crossed into your side, you must have reinforcements moved in. But that doesn't mean you're ready to go to war, or the Chinese have actually an occupation. You read the Chinese reports on the Indian border, they say they list, I think, 1,200 incidents. So don't go by these things. What I am saying is that you, as Raja said very clearly, and as Sudhanshu Mittal pointed out, don't take this and try to create a situation, because we have seen the Indian media has been regularly doing this, and then it forgets about the whole incident.
No, I don't think
you
it's fair
go
to blame
last
the
year,
Indian media.
Last year, the same time,
The
this
Jammu
year
and
did it.
Kashmir, the Jammu and Kashmir
Just
government is saying.
Jammu and Kashmir.
The Jammu and Kashmir.
Can I say something, please?
No. Look. I don't think it's fair to blame the media, Dr.
I am
Swami.
blaming the
If the
media.
Jammu-
You are being used as cat power in this India-China game.
If the Jammu and Kashmir government is saying the
Jammu
Chinese
Kashmir government is
are
not
deep
the
into Indian
authoritative
territory,
government.
the Minister of External Affairs is saying there's an ongoing incident,
Yes,
and the army
there is-
moved troops over
there
there.
are incidents. No
Obviously,
question
the media
about
is
it.
going to talk
There
about
is-
this.
There are incidents.
Obviously, the media is going to
there
talk
are
about
incidents.
this.
There's no
No,
question
but-
about
no,
it.
but-
But the
Judge,
question is,
Judge,
as pointed
yeah.
out by the professor,
Yeah.
because the
Judge.
LAC is not defined,
Yeah.
both sides are doing it
Yeah.
according to the reports of both countries.
Yes, Sudhanshu, yes.
Janjar, just one incident I want to remind everybody here. See, if you recollect, in 1986, China moved its troops in Sardorong Chu, which is facing Taiwan.
Sumdorong.
And this is a place where India suffered its worst defeat. Now, at that time, General Sundarji was the army chief. What did he do? He ordered the air movement of the entire brigade north of Tawang, leading to a very major build-up and belligerent language being used on either side. Rajiv Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister, was very upset. And, it was leading to crisis. So what the typical response of Sundarji was to him, he said, please make alternate arrangements if you think you're not getting adequate professional advice. And he stuck on to it. What did it result into? It resulted into cooling of tempers, withdrawal of forces and normalizations. Issue is, whether it's China or any other thing, we need to look at defense with a lot more seriousness than what is being demonstrated by the present government of the day. You see, we are now being perceived as a weak state, as a soft state. Be it military intrusions, be it terrorism, be it any
it's not
kind
just
of...
to do with China's alleged intrusions along the LAC. In fact, Mr. D. Raja, look at China's behavior on the Brahmaputra River. The river originates in Tibet, flows into India. The Chinese are building several dams which will squeeze the supply of water to India. Why are we able to do nothing about that also?
Yeah, come on, who said we are not able to do nothing about that? In fact, Prime Minister had a high-level talks with Chinese leadership, and things are being sorted out in the interest of both countries. What are we discussing
Mr. Raja,
here, sitting in New Delhi?
Mr. Raja,
Let us have confidence.
Mr. Raja,
Let us have confidence in our army. Let us have confidence in our army. And the army is alert. Army can take care of our line of control, our border. Number one. Number two, let us have confidence in the maturity of our two nations.
I'm sure you know that the government of India... Mr. Raja,
you cannot drive the India and China to go for a military confrontation.
Mr. Raja, give me 10 seconds. I'm sure you know very well that the government of India has proposed to China that we should have a water commission or a treaty on river waters or a dialogue process with them, and China is rebuffed us on all three ideas.
Listen, let me tell you that the United States has a problem with Canada and many of these kinds of issues.
Yeah.
We do. China is no angel. China definitely, if he finds you weak, is going to take advantage of it. And they did in the past. But the question is whether we should be manipulated by forces taking such localized events and blowing it up into a major invasion that is taking place, which is what your press is doing it all the time.
But I'm talking about a wide issue right now, which is that there are many issues over here. We've talked about the border incursions.
Sure, we have.
Let's talk about the dams in the Brahmaputra as well.
Absolutely.
Because we've been rebuffed on that.
May I tell you that we have a lot of leftover problems which are due to our stupidity in the 1950s. Now we've got to solve them. There are lots of forces which would like to see us in combat with China. And that includes one of our neighbors. All right. So therefore, we got to see whether it's in the larger interest to find a way. If we have to go to war, we will go to war with China. But the question is whether we should be sort of propelled into it by media reports. I think that's a dangerous thing for the country.
I think it's overstating it, saying
it's
that...
It's not overstating. You have
we are trying to propel a war over here.
You have not been able to tell me which the source is. And then you refer to some vague statements of the Kashmir minister. I'm surprised that such rubbish is put out in the media. 10 kilometers. How did you get this 10 kilometers?
No.
From where?
I reiterate, Dr. Swami, that when the Minister of External Affairs is not rebutting
where is the 10 kilometers?
When the Jammu and Kashmir government is saying...
Where is the 10 kilometers? You said 10 kilometers. Where is the 10 kilometers? Don't evade now.
No, I'm not evading.
Of course. Where is the 10 kilometers from?
The Jammu and Kashmir government
itself... Where did you get this 10 kilometers from?
The Jammu and Kashmir government itself has said that they're deep inside our territory.
You're evading now.
No, we are not making it up.
Where is the 10 kilometers?
We are not making it up.
Which source is 10 kilometers?
The Jammu and
Pakistan newspaper.
No, but what Pakistan?
Then where did you get it from?
The Jammu and Kashmir government itself is saying that they're deep inside the territory.
They have not said 10 kilometers.
Why is the government of India not denying it? In fact, they're confirming there's an ongoing incident.
Ask the government of India.
No, we've asked the government of India.
And then what did they say? 10 kilometers.
You know what Saeed Akbaruddin, the spokesperson of MEA, said?
Did he say 10 kilometers?
He did not deny it.
What? You asked him 10 kilometers.
I
have not seen any such
The government is fully aware of the reports of 10 kilometers.
You got caught in this.
No, I don't.
Of course you have.
If the media is saying 10 kilometers, why isn't the government of India not rebutted? In fact,
I am not a spokesman for the government of India. This government of India is a stupid government of India. I know it. I know that there are so many issues have been lost because of their stupidity.
So why the government is not rebutting? That's not our problem.
Ask the government.
Yeah, that's not our problem.
Yeah, but you
if
can't
the government is not
pull out a
rebutting
number from 10 kilometers from the air.
No, it's for the government to rebut the information.
Oh yes, please tell the government that. Don't tell me.
Yeah, but why should I play the government's role now?
Janjar, can I say something, please?
No, hold on.
Janjar, can we say something, please?
1 minute. Because let's not get sidetracked also. We're talking about the water issue also. The fact of it is, because Mr. Raja was saying, Colonel, that
I want to bring out the point here. China does not respect the water treaties internationally. They've said it many a time. And we have a problem in Brahmaputra as far as I am concerned. The second thing is the South China Sea, they tried to bully us a few months back. They wanted us to get out from there despite having a treaty with Vietnam. We had to tell them that we are not going to budge. It is only then China understood what we wanted to say. So we must not blow up this incident into a major kind of issue, but we must not kind of brush it under the carpet as well. That is the issue that needs to be understood.
Professor Kondapalli, even talking about the border issue, by the way, you'll be aware the new Chinese President Xi Jinping told our Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh recently that the border issue between India and China is not easy to resolve. Now some experts are interpreting it as being that the Chinese President is basically closing the door for a settlement for the next 10 years while he is at the helm of affairs. We haven't even reacted to that.
Yes, in comparison to President Hu Jintao, who told Vietnam that they will resolve the problem by 1999, as Vice President Hu Jintao, he said that way back in the early 90s, and by 1999 they resolved the territorial dispute with Vietnam. So when President Xi Jinping suggested that this is a complicated issue and we should maintain peace and tranquility on the border, I think he is trying to indicate that this is going to be a long-term problem which we need to resolve. Yeah. So unlike in the case of Vietnam territorial dispute, especially in terms of the border dispute, where they have set a deadline for resolving the territorial dispute, in the case of India, it appears to be a open chapter.
Right, okay. Mr. D. Raja, so here's the point. You were saying earlier that, oh, in India and China, the mechanisms you're trying to resolve, these are formal mechanisms. But the reality is the Chinese president is trying to put it off resolving the border issue. My question to you is different now because we're in the last 1.5 minutes of the debate. My question to you is simple. We've had one bargaining chip, which is Tibet, but we've frittered that away as well by recognizing Tibet to be an integral part of China. Do you think that we should now reopen that, revisit that, hold the Tibet card up to China?
No, firstly, you will have to have some kind of this proper technology to allow me to hear you or listen me. I do not know whether you listen to me or not. I do not hear you properly. I do not hear others properly. That is what your technology is here.
Okay, I'm sorry if there's been some audio problem. I'm sorry if there's been some audio problem. We'll try and get it fixed for the next time.
So I can't bear the my ears cannot tolerate this kind of noise all the time. Having said that, since you have asked me, I will have to respond to an extent. My point is, we should trust each other. We should trust each other. China is our neighbor. We should trust China. China should trust India. If we have all the time mistrust, then we will our relations will be always strained. And we should trust each other. We should try to
trusted them before the Chinese war also.
Dialogue. That's what I am trying to say. On Vietnam and China, how they resolve their problems. Let us learn from the experience of Vietnam and China. In the same way, we should have our own experience, our own sobriety in our approach. And we can't go for military confrontation. I am saying this not only for India, for China also. China can increase its defense budget. It doesn't mean China can afford to go for a war with India. India also increasing its defense budget. It doesn't mean India can go for war with China.
All right. Okay. I don't think anybody is advocating a war with China over here. I don't think anybody is advocating a war with China over here.
But final question
to Sudhanshu Mittal. Sudhanshu, should India use Tibet to put pressure on China?
See, India should use everything under its command to have a just and equitable solution with China. Look, let not permit them to be big brothers, and let us not be the underdogs. The entire Indo-China policy needs a relook. Look what's happening in Sri Lanka. Look what's happening in Nepal. You have a serious problem which is confronting this country, and unless we have clarity in how we are going to deal with them, God save the country. And with the adequate sympathizers for
neighboring countries, including Sri Lanka. I have been saying you recast your policy towards Sri Lanka, which the government of India is not prepared.
The long-term perspective is lacking as far as the nation is concerned.
Where we need a correction, not 10 kilometers.
All right, but as we wrap it up, we will of course keep a watch out for that intrusion by the Chinese, allegedly 10 kilometers inside Indian territory. We'll keep a watch on that. But in the meantime, thank you very much, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, Sudhanshu Mittal, D. Raja, Colonel Sherawat and Professor Shrikant Kondapalli for joining us. Thank you for watching as well. Good night.